Who do you look to be your mentor? Someone that looks and acts like you? What do you do if there isn't anybody around like that? Stay tuned and find out on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Thank you to Traver Connect, our great sponsor. Their purpose, helping you deliver an exceptional customer experience. Visit them at traverconnect.com. Welcome everybody to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. We have three exciting guests today who are the co-founders of the Women of Color Automotive Network. And with us is Patrice Banks, who is the CEO and founder of Girls Auto Clinic, which is a service repair shop. Welcome, Patrice.
Thank you.
And Erica Tiffany Wells is a sales manager with Town Center Nissan. Welcome, Erica.
Glad to be on.
And Kerry Wise is a vice president at TrueCar. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you.
And our missing member today is Amanda Gordon, who is the CEO and founder of Gojo Auto, which is an independent automotive dealer. So welcome, everybody. And I think the obvious question to ask to start with is, in a male-dominated business, if you will, how did you guys end up in automotive? And Kerry, you can go ahead and start that off.
Yeah, so like a lot of women, I fell into automotive. It didn't necessarily have a passion for cars, but it had a passion for people and the process, the sales process. And so I started at JD Power and Associates, which is a marketing research firm focusing on the customer experience in automotive. Spent 12 years at JD Power from a research standpoint in sales, working primarily with the automotive manufacturers and helping them understand the consumer experience in automotive. And then I jumped to the tech side at Edmunds.com, where I worked on the dealer side of the business, working with dealers that advertised on Edmunds, and really dived into helping dealers from a sales process standpoint. I ran a training team there that worked with dealers. I worked with our internal sales training team. And then I eventually was speaking at conferences across the industry, helping the entire industry understand how do we move forward from a process standpoint. And eventually I ended up at TrueCar, doing some of the same things out there in the industry, kind of evangelizing, how do we evolve this industry from a consumer experience standpoint, and how can dealers improve their processes and their ROI when it comes to the sales process. So I kind of fell into it, but I think once you're in auto, it's hard to get out, right?
It is very true. I'm sure many of us, I know I fell into it. This was not where I was headed, but it got pulled in and have been there for 30 plus years now. So there's something good there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 22 years in, so I'm in it for good now. So.
And Patrice, how about you? How did you wind up?
Well, Dave, I don't know about you, but sometimes I curse the day that I joined the automotive industry. Like, what was I thinking? This is a hard business. But my story is I was an auto airhead. I was the girl who hated my automotive experiences. I always thought I needed a guide to come with me. I felt like I was being taken advantage of by mechanics, whether I was or not, and I didn't feel confident with my choices at the repair center. So I started looking for a female mechanic because I thought, okay, if I find a woman, she'll help me. I won't feel intimidated or scared to ask questions. And I couldn't find one. I even Googled female mechanic, looking for one. And of course, what pops up first is the 10 top stock images of women mechanics. And it's like women in bikinis next to muscle cars. And I was realizing this is not just a me issue. A lot of my friends and family and every woman I know had an experience or several experiences where she felt the same way, like an auto airhead. So I decided that I'm going to go back to school to learn how to work on cars and create a business that was going to cater to women, that was going to educate women, empower women. I really believe the root cause of women being so dissatisfied with their experiences is the fact that we don't see more women working in automotive repair. And so I hire women mechanics And we also have a nail salon at my repair center so women can get their nails done while they wait for their car. So really all about how can we give a better customer experience to women, make them more confident drivers and smart consumers through education and our, repair services. And that's what we do.
Excellent. Yeah, I love the premise behind your excuse me, your shop. It resonates with me when you talk about going into places and feeling uncomfortable with what they were telling you. For if you guys are old enough to remember Radio Shacks, if you ever walked into one of those places, that's how I felt every time I walked into there when they started talking to me. Like, they could have sold me anything, and I would have had no idea whether it was the right thing or not. And that's not a good feeling to have.
It's not. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And Erica, how about you? How did you wind up in this fine business?
I'm driving this Delta 88 and I have to 2-foot it just because it won't stay started, and I pull up to this Midas and I find out I need to have an alternator and it's like $100 and something bucks, and I'm bawling my eyes out in front of the Midas manager. And at the time I was trying to go to school for marketing and stuff. And I said, listen, I'll help you guys with flyers, anything, just help me. I don't have $20 to my name. The guy feels sorry for me, says, look, come back tomorrow, we'll figure it out. They put the alternator in my car. And I start making coupons for $11.95 for Midas for him and start putting those out around town, trying to help him out with his marketing. 6 months later, he started a Napa Auto Care Center, and I was his service advisor. And I start working for the guy, making $8 an hour, and he finds out that women are kick-ass when you're sitting there doing selling service to people. We had 6 bays, and I would order the parts from Napa and then sell the customers when they came in, but it was always like a consultant. Like, man, do you really want to go back out there on those brakes? You wouldn't want to do that. I mean, if I was your sister, I wouldn't want to do that. And next thing you know, that was my start in. I worked at Napa for about 3 years, and then I left and decided to get into retail after I got my dealer license and tried to buy cars and sell cars, which did not work out. So I decided to go to the dealership level and kind of learn how to do it the right way.
Or what they call the right way, right?
Well, yeah.
Quote unquote.
Trust me, what I was doing with my dealer license wasn't helpful.
Well, I applaud whoever it was that decided to help you at that time for the repair, because obviously that could have gone a completely different way, and this industry would have lost a great person to be here to help out and be a customer advocate. So that is, again, another person who fell into automotive in a way. So it's a common story. So as we all know, 2020 has been just a terrific year. Depending on how you want to look at it, it certainly has brought challenges, and challenges can be looked at as opportunities. And this has given the dealerships and a lot of people a chance to kind of reset and kind of relook at the way that we do our day-to-day business. It has certainly changed a lot of things on the fixed ops side, things that some people have been saying for a long time needed to be done, with advisors handling less people and all that. As the traffic slowed down from COVID, advisors' numbers went up in what they produced and things, and it started to show people that, hey, actually, if advisors handle less people, they will actually do better. And give the customer a better experience. And so with 2020, what have been some of the challenges or opportunities that have impacted you guys in your day-to-day? Obviously, the three of you have three completely different, one industry, but completely different day-to-days. So what is it that 2020 has really impacted as you approach each day?
For me...
Go ahead, Erica.
Well, see, for me, the BDC was finally valued at the level that I feel like it should have been all along. When you have people who are wanting to do, our internet numbers spiked all of a sudden when people weren't coming in and wanted to do everything ahead of time. Even for service, the service manager for the first time said, maybe we should talk about that service BDC one more time and really see how that looks, because his advisors did not know how to prospect. When there was not people coming in through they didn't know about the client service. They couldn't figure out how to get the customers back in, drop off and pickups, and they weren't ready to compete with that. And my BDC was able to jump in without a hesitation and really keep the dealership running, to the point that we had 3 of our best months during the pandemic. And I think, like you said, it was a testament to the working from home, allowing some of the ladies to be able to do something that the dealership before would have frowned on. Now they're a lot more open-minded. So to me, it was a great reality check, and I'm glad for the opportunities it created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
For us at Girls Auto Clinic, it brought challenges and opportunities, which usually entrepreneurship does, right? It's all about how you take on these things that come. And initially, when COVID first happened, we saw our numbers drop. Like, people were canceling appointments in March, right? We would go days without appointments, and I started worrying what was going to happen. And I was also worried about my staff. You're getting in and out of customers' cars, right? They're coming in and exchanging keys and credit cards. I didn't know what was the best way to protect them. So we closed down for about a month, which was really difficult, and all my staff went on unemployment. But I wanted to make sure that we were like doing the right thing and everyone was going to stay safe. I had I have an employee that had an immune issue, so he couldn't work. And we lost a tech because of that when we opened back up, because he wasn't able to come in. And when we did open back up, it was limited hours, so it really did affect how much revenue we were bringing in. But, they have all these programs like the PPP loan, the economic disaster loan. They have grants from the state and even locally for my county. And I applied for everything and got everything that I applied for. And so the opportunity there was, it did bring on a lot of cash to my business that I didn't have before, that now it's helping us make it through the pandemic. So I'm not as stressed, and we don't have to worry about, our health over money or keeping the business open. It gives us a little bit more comfort there, which was a great opportunity, but also bringing on a little bit more cash to give us some security moving forward. Who knows, what's going to happen? Everyone's talking about recession, and we know that repair usually does well in recessions because people are holding on to their cars longer. But you never know what's going to happen. So I'm looking at just moving forward. We still aren't above our pre-COVID numbers or hit our pre-COVID numbers yet. But it's mainly for staffing. Because I hire women and their kids aren't back in school. Two of them had to go down to part-time. So just those types of challenges that we're working with. Our customers are understanding with us. We're not producing as much as we normally do, and just working on ramping back up. It's taking some time. I'm trying to be patient, but we'll get there. I know we will.
At TrueCar, we've seen it from all angles. From an internal staffing standpoint, we've been impacted, and then obviously as a marketplace, a shopping marketplace, we sit between the consumer and the dealer. So from a consumer standpoint, prior to COVID, we would get about 8 million shoppers coming to our website every month to shop for a car and connect with the dealer. And so we definitely saw traffic decline in the month of March and April. But eventually it picked back up, and it was just kind of interesting to see that consumers turned obviously more to online shopping. When COVID struck, they were very hesitant to leave their homes, hesitant to walk into a dealer. And so they really leaned into our site. Last month, we had a record-breaking month from a traffic standpoint, like in the history of the company. So,
Wow.
We're seeing more online shopping than we ever have. From a dealer standpoint, what we saw was dealers were very hesitant to spend, really, from a marketing standpoint when COVID struck. And so we had dealers asking us to kind of halt, put their accounts on hold, maybe to hold off on marketing expense in that first couple months. And then we saw that they kind of overcame that and they started to lean in. And the areas that they leaned in on are digital retailing. We had the ability to get a price online on TrueCar. At the time that COVID struck, we had the ability to get a trade. We instantly launched our payment product where a consumer could actually get a payment as well. And I think overnight we had 3,000 dealers sign up for trade, payments, all these things from a digital retailing standpoint that they were hesitant to do prior to COVID. All of a sudden, they had to dive into after COVID. So, working in the business for 22 years and really pushing the online experience for, at least half of my career, I think what the opportunity that came out of COVID is that people were way more open-minded from a dealership standpoint to lean in on online shopping, digital retailing. And we know, that is where the future is going to go. So I think we're better off for that.
Yeah, I was saying at the beginning of this that everybody was talking about being a disruptor and disrupting things, and that disruption was brought right to our service drives.
Yeah.
It was brought directly to us, and
Yep.
you either adapted or you suffered.
Yes.
And I think it's funny because obviously at the beginning of this, we all know that the dealers and a lot of people, but the dealers especially, really did kind of contract, like probably much further than they needed to, in a panic of what was going to happen. And from a marketing standpoint, I mean, you need to market when times are good, and you really need to market when times are not good. And yet the dealers went completely against everything that would seem normal. Not surprising, but they went against, the norms and contracted down everything until they realized that, and even the dealership that I was at, they shortened our hours. At a corporate level, they shortened our hours, and we were like, we've still got 30 people a day coming in here. You just shortened our hours. So it's like now, in a week, we were booked 2.5 weeks out. And it was like, then they're like, oh, well, you better stay open then. It's like,
Yeah, Dave, did you find, what we saw was that efficiency became so much more important too, doing more with less. So having, let's say your staff is furloughed, we saw dealers furloughing, having to ask for more out of individuals.
Yes.
And having to get more out of their marketing spend as well. So now all of a sudden, there was no more wasted marketing spend. Everything had to produce in terms of shoppers and buyers.
Yeah, and the reality of it is that a lot of dealers who are out there heralding that they had their best months, they didn't necessarily do any more in sales, or they did more because they had less expense. So there was less that was cutting into that bottom line, was the reason that a lot of them did very well. And now for some, the next battle becomes convincing them that you need those more people as the business starts to grow again, because they want to do more with less all the time. So,
True.
Now you gotta reverse that, because they think you can do that every single month.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into what you guys are really here for, and what really drove all of you to believe that there was this need for this group that you put together. And I know it's WOCAN, but is it WOCAN, WOCAN? How am I supposed to pronounce that?
I call it WOCAN. I think we all
right.
call it WOCAN. It's Women of Color Automotive Network. And from my perspective, I've been, attending tons of conferences. I'm very immersed in the industry. I speak at 15 industry conferences a year, right? And so, what I have found is that, obviously being a woman of color, I am the only one all the time, right? Even in my own company or at all the industry events. And, there were definitely groups that were supportive in some ways in terms of, women's groups. But what I would find is that even at the women's groups, it tended to be white women. So I was still kind of the only one. We had our gender in common, but not necessarily, race. And then, there's a minority dealer association, and I've been to their events, and that was amazing because there I saw a lot of diversity from a race standpoint, Black men, Hispanic men. But the key thing is that I was the only woman at those events. And so I think for me, it just hit me that no matter what, I'm still kind of the only one. And there is, as a woman of color, there is some unique things that we face, and a perspectives that we have. And there really isn't a safe place necessarily for us to share those challenges, share those perspectives with each other. And we're also not really attracted to this business. When I ask somebody at a drive-through, or if I see them on the streets, would you work in automotive as a woman of color? It's usually like, what? It's not even on their mind. So I wanted to create Women in Automotive for a woman like me that's been in the business, that's kind of on their own, feels a little isolated, and that they have somewhere to grow and be supported.
Yeah, that's certainly an awesome mission. And I guess I didn't really think about that until you started saying that not you walk into all those conferences as the double minority, right? a woman and a woman of color. Right. So that's making it even more difficult. Patrice, what kind of drove you into this?
So for me, it's about community. And I understand being an entrepreneur, first of all, is important to have support around you. And it's having community, having advisors, having peers. And when I first joined the industry, I was an outsider, and I was saying some things that were kind of harsh, right? Like, oh, the industry takes advantage of women. And it was making some people mad, and not everyone was really liking and accepting me. And yeah, I was kind of, I tell people, really bold and naive and everything, but I didn't really find people that I could connect with, that I thought got me, I could share with and learn from, until I met Erica. I first initially met Erica, and then Amanda, and then I met Carrie through Amanda. And, I just love talking to these girls and sharing my story and sharing my concerns or my woes with them, and being able to get advice and saying, you know what, we need something like this for other women that have these similar experiences, that don't feel like they have any place to turn or anyone to talk to, which is going to be important in any career that you do, is having those safe spaces to be able to vent, to be able to learn and grow, right? Who's supporting you? And if you don't feel like you have that, it's going to make it really hard in your career. And it made it hard for me initially. And so I know that having this group is helping me grow. It's helping me learn, right? And I'm excited to also be able to give that back to other women.
Awesome. All right, Erica, you started this whole thing. So you started the connection of you four. So how about you? What was your real driver?
Like the lady said, having the sisterhood to talk to. What I realized quickly is that the boys club of automotive meant that if you were to leave your job tomorrow, these guys had a community of guys that could call within one phone call and say, hey man, where do you know somebody who works at this? I want to go to this brand. I mean, there's a network there. Sometimes these guys just call each other to say, how many cars did you have out? What kind of month did you have? I'm about to commit suicide because I want to jump off the wall because my month's sucky. Talk me off the ledge. And while I would try to have these conversations with the guys, it always didn't work. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, hey, Eric is one of us, but not really. And I looked around for, where is my women community? And the other ladies that worked, and I was in management at the time, the other ladies worked in the admin positions, and there was a disconnect, because we didn't have the same struggles. And I didn't feel like there's someone I could talk to when I needed advice, when I wanted to do a career move, when I was having a bad day. So, when I met Patrice, I just heard about her on Instagram, saw that she was opening up a shop, and literally without talking to her one time, flew to Philadelphia to be at her grand opening, knocked on her shop door the night before and was like, I know you don't know me, but I just flew from Atlanta to be at your grand opening tomorrow. And I just wanted to meet you before all the press and stuff comes and say, I'm very proud. She was like, come on in, let's have drinks. You want to spend the night at the house? You don't even have to have Airbnb tomorrow. And I'm like, it does exist. And I'm like, this woman is so welcoming and so positive. And I'm looking at this shop blowing my mind and saying, women like you need to be acknowledged and need to be everywhere. Do you know what this shop would do in Atlanta? And that's where the friendship started. And then every time I had a bad day, I'd say, Patrice, I'm on the ledge, talk me off. And that's where it grew from. So when she introduced me to Amanda, and I had met Carrie before at a Woman in the Auto event, and it all just, the pieces came together, and I said, we need more of this. This is so important to who we are. It's so important to our growth. It's so important to the auto industry, who needs a different perspective being brought in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it is powerful to have a network, right? To be able to turn to, and you're right, Erica. I'll say I'm guilty of making the joke that if I get fired, I can have a job in a couple hours, and that may be from networking, or because there's 6 other dealerships down the road, and when you've done this 30 years, they know you've already lost your mind, so you must be able to do something. So, but that network, and as you said, Patrice, in entrepreneurship, having, I don't want to say a partnership, but having those people you can turn to is absolutely essential. You have to have it, and just in regular business, anywhere in business, you need to be able to turn to people that speak your language and can understand what you're going through. And they may not be able to solve any of the problems, but at least they can sit there and listen and understand.
And if people
what
that
you're going through,
and people that you trust being vulnerable in front of, right? And as women of color, it's very hard for us to be vulnerable in front of white men and white women, right? And that's essentially what I needed, is a, support that I could be vulnerable, I could show my flaws with, and they would still love me, and I wouldn't feel like it wasn't genuine.
Yeah, and I think, I think about my career, and I've had some amazing allies, mostly white men, right, throughout my careers, and I can literally name them, right? Literally right now, they are that ingrained in my mind that I can name them, but I could also name a lot of people that have left me out too, where I had to work extra hard to be noticed. And I think most people aren't racist, right? It's like, I think people can get defensive about, like, why do you need a group like this? Well, most people aren't racist, but I think people naturally have affinity bias. And when you think about that person that you're going to mentor, for example, sometimes you pick that person that reminds you of yourself, right? You look at them and you go, I remember being just like that, or I remember sounding like that, or they remind me of me. And when you are the only one, you typically don't remind people of them. Like, no one talks like me, no one looks like me, sounds like me. The results are the same. I get results, I execute, but it may not look exactly the same as you, Dave. And so I think that's the tough part, is that if you're not deliberate about diversity, your biases do kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's I can't even think of the word, but you're right. I mean, I think there is certainly a lot of bias falling short of racism, but a lot of bias that still exists, and it might be conscious, unconscious, whatever it is. But it is certainly there, and I think you touched on something important there, Carrie, with the you remind me of somebody, and that is how a lot of a lot of friendships, a lot of mentorships, that kind of stuff starts. And when you're the only one walking in the room that looks like you, that's a tough thing to make that connection with. That's an enlightening statement right there.
Good. Glad.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why we're on here.
That's right. That's what this is all about.
Yes.
Opening minds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the next question I think is probably kind of answered by what we just talked about. But why is having that representation so important? Obviously to you, but to the greater community. Patrice?
Representation, I'm so big on representation when I talk about it for women, and especially women of color in this industry. And the reason that it's so important is because women represent, a huge portion of the automotive industry in terms of our contribution as customers and revenue, right? $200 billion a year women spend on buying and repairing their cars. But why do we have these experiences? Why do we hate our automotive experiences? What can we do about that? And so I was just looking at those numbers and trying to figure out ways that we can, get more women involved with automotive and empower them so we can represent more of what consumers look like. And I think that's when they have the empowered experience. That's when the automotive industry kind of understands, when you're paying attention to where the money's going, the people who are making the decisions, and giving them what they need, that actually it helps the automotive industry. And so representation is going to be really important, not just for women to be empowered or women of color, but I think also for the automotive industry to understand what our power is and how we can help boost them and help them get better experiences for women who are buying their cars, or women of color who are buying cars and need their cars repaired. So that's why it's really important for me. It's why I do a lot of the press and talk a lot, and I brand myself a lot with the red heels, and have my Chicana community, because I want not just women to see us working on cars, but men, right? We have men that come in that are our customers. We have women that bring their young sons, and they're like, oh my goodness, women are working on cars. That's so cool. And it's normalized to them. It's going to take a lot of work to do that, but this is kind of where it starts. These grassroots organizations like WOCAN and Girls Auto Clinic that are understanding that representation is very important. And these types of organizations are what cause those things to start, and hopefully they'll bloom and grow as we grow.
Absolutely. Carrie?
The labor force is represented by 18% women of color, and automotive is at about 6% women of color. It's even lower, on the service and technician side. I think it's around 3 or 4%. So it's out of whack in terms of representation, in terms of the labor force. And so we want to close that gap. But, I think representation is important because, it's that whole saying, if you don't see it, you can't be it. And it reminds me, I had a relative, an 8-year-old relative. She's a girl, a girl of color. And she said to me, I said, you could be anything you want to be. And I was just kind of encouraging her, you could be the president of the United States. And she literally looked at me and said, no, I can't. And I was like, flabbergasted. I thought she was joking. And I was like, yes, you can. You could be the president of the United States. And she said, no. She said, girls can't be the president. And this was, 10 years ago. But it floored me. And then I'm trying to figure out, why did she think that? Well, she's never seen it. And in her mind, she actually thought there was a rule in place that said only boys could be the president. And so it reminds me that even as children, you make those connections of what you can and cannot be based on what you see. And so it's really important for me to spread the word out there that, I've made it to this position. There's other women of color. There's not many of us, but we do exist, so that next generation sees it and wants to be it.
Yeah. Erica?
I agree. To Carrie's point, the representation part, you think of a male doctor and a woman nurse, and then you reverse it and think of a woman doctor and a male nurse. And this day and age, it's not so abnormal if a woman doctor came out. But I'll tell you, as a woman sales manager, when I come out to take a TO on a customer, and my salesperson's in his mid-60s, and this little, young black girl comes out and tries to close the deal, and the customer looks at me and says, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for a manager. And I'm like, you're right, it's me. And then there's this awkwardness that we have to get over. But I make sure that when I open my mouth and I speak about the deal and what we need to do to put the deal together, that they know that they're talking to a professional, and that I've worked hard to get to where I'm at, and that you don't have to feel like, well, who did she come from? And that's important, not only from the consumer side, so the consumers start to feel more comfortable. And at the end, they say, you know what, this has been a really pleasant experience, and I'm thankful for you. Just whatever it took. Sometimes customers are really like, I am so glad to see a woman in this business, and I'm thankful that you changed my mentality about it. And some of them will challenge you, literally try to be rude and try to test your knowledge and your skill set. And so for me, I have to make sure that I'm extra savvy and that I'm extra on top of things, so that when they try to throw a curveball and ask me about, the money factor of a lease, that I can say, yeah, we can go ahead and calculate that by hand if you'd like. And that I kind of smack any notion that women can't excel and that we don't know what we're talking about, or that we're just some cute face who got promoted up because the GM had a crush on us. Absolutely not. So to the lady's point, representation is extremely important for the consumer side, and then also for the other employees to say, if she made it to that position, then I can too. And to make sure that there's a career path for these women to get into upper level positions, because there's nothing stopping them but themselves, and maybe the mentality of those that feel like they would not be able to handle it.
And Dave, if I could just add, and this kind of really relates to Patrice's, business, but, I've heard there's a shortage of technicians out there, right? I've heard in the industry, there's a shortage of technicians. We don't have enough. And then Patrice has, how many women technicians work for you?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4. Okay. So
guys.
to me, that puts her at a competitive advantage purely from a resource standpoint, right? When there's a shortage, when she's opening it up and really actively seeking not just men, but women. And I think as an industry, like there is a competitive advantage when we can open it up to all races, gender. And also we know from a consumer experience standpoint, it will be better, right? When our workforce represents the same as our customer demographics, you have a competitive advantage.
Right.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I have employed and worked with five female technicians over my time. Never when I was a tech. It was always whether I was either a manager or an advisor. And I can tell you that of those five, four of those ran circles around the men. Without a doubt. And just even from reasoning out problems and things, they were much better at handling the day-to-day situations in fixing cars than the men were. And to go back, Carrie, to one of your points, I'm sure there's a statistic somewhere that says this, but I can tell you that I would say it's probably 80%, maybe even higher than that, that when somebody is in getting their car repaired, if it's the male, it is still the woman who is driving that decision and is really making the decision as to whether that car is going to get fixed or not. Yeah. As soon as it comes to any kind of money, the oil changes, whatever, that kind of stuff is all normal. But when it's either an unexpected expense or an expense that's larger, I hear a lot more men saying, I've got to check with my wife, than I hear women saying I have to check with my husband. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I talk a lot how about women are the CFOs of the household, right? And even in sales, they even said numbers up to 95% of the car buying decisions are made by women, right? If women want the car, they're getting the car, and I understood that women also are the number one customer with repair because if they're stay-at-home moms or they're usually the ones running those types of errands, bringing the cars in. And I have a lot of stories from women saying that they're responsible for doing that. But often when it comes time to make the decision, they're like, okay, your car needs this. They say, well, let me call my husband and not to get the approval for the money, but to be like, does this make sense? Right. Am I being taken advantage of? And I didn't, and it didn't feel empowering for a lot of these women who were smart women like me. We were engineers, right. And corporate women who are very smart and still in this position felt like, I need some help here, and it's not very empowering position like we talk about. So that's why I thought it's so important that we're paying attention to women because they're making these decisions and we want to make sure that they feel good about it and not that they have to say, okay, let me call my husband or my dad or my brother, right? Which is what I always did. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I train my advisors, it's always that everything is treated as if you were selling it to your mom. So if you needed to explain to your mom what this was that you were going to repair, that's how you should be explaining it to the customer.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I mean, be it male or female, it doesn't really matter because there's a whole lot of guys out there that know nothing about cars. So,
right. I used to say, there's men don't know either, right? But they just have more of that confidence, right? Like women kind of come in already with our guards up, thinking we might be taken advantage of, and we make really poor decisions. I tell women often we're not good customers either, right? And because we're not empowered with the knowledge to make the right choice, and that's going to come off, and be standoffish. And sometimes the service advisor or the tech will feed in to that energy, but I always tell women, like, I like that advice about talk to them like they're your mom, because I tell women, if you don't feel good, if they don't make you feel good about your choice, like get out, it's your hard earned money, right? Get out of there.
Walk away.
They should make you feel good about it, that yes, I need this and I feel good I'm spending my money here. And if you're uncomfortable with how they're talking to you or how they're explaining it, or you don't get it, leave and find someone else. You'll find them that treat you right,
And Dave, one of the things that I think, I heard Liza Borges at a conference speak about this. So I stole this from her, but A lot of our recruiting and job postings prevent diversity in some ways. So you think about the service advisor position, and Liza talked about the fact that she's recruited more women service advisors than most other dealers. And one of the revelations for her was, ASC certified was a requirement as a service advisor. And when she removed that, now all of a sudden she had a lot more women applying. And these women are great because they're great with people. They're great in sales, and they're great, right? And so you think about diversity, and sometimes it's as simple as the postings and we're preventing a whole segment of people to not apply because of that.
Right. Just even take ASE certified out of it, just put mechanically inclined or something in there, right. and you're excluding a large group of people. But again, the males are still going to apply because they are never going to say that they are not mechanically inclined, even if they couldn't put together a Lego set. So,
That's a good point. Oh God, I love it.
All right. So before we end, what does WOCAN offer its members?
How about we all take one thing that we're excited about, so we don't cross each other. So I'll say I'm excited about I'm excited about the educational aspect of what we'll provide. So we plan on doing monthly speakers, inspirational speakers, but also educational webinars and workshops. And so we want to show some successful women of color that are across OEMs and dealers and on the service side and on the vendor side. But we also want to bring in women of color and allies to educate and give real world tactics and skill sets to our members. So I'm most excited about the educational side of it.
Awesome.
Patrice, what about you?
So for me, it's definitely the community. I'm really excited to be able to connect with other women of color that are in automotive, share our stories, get some mentorship, right? Make some friends, because that was really one of the things that I was missing in my life before WOCAN. So I'm excited. We're doing like Facebook Lives every week, which is really cool. We have a Facebook group where we interact. Once things start opening back up, we're going to do local meetups, right? And then, of course, we want to have a yearly conference as well. So I'm excited for those things to come together, to be able to meet these women online and in person, and just finally feel like I have a community in automotive that I really can relate to and feel good in.
For me, it's about closing the gap, the 6 degree of separation. I shouldn't have to fly to Philly to find other women in this industry when I live in Atlanta, So it's not to say they don't exist, but why can't we find each other? And why is there not a place for us? And even when you have these dealership automotive conferences, again, you look around and you don't see people like yourself. Is it because they can't afford these expensive trips and they can't afford these conference fees? And if so, how do we find a place where we can commune and be together without a cost, where we are able to connect and we are able to build relationships and we are able to empower, mentor, educate, scholarship programs? I just think that it's going to be so important for the future of the automotive industry to evolve and to change, is to bring in new talent with a different viewpoint and the diversity of these different people in the industries that they come from, and to say, you know what? That is what's going to help propel the automotive industry into the next generation, because I feel it's a bit lagging. And hopefully the pandemic has been something to kind of spearhead people's mentality to be a little bit more open-minded, to do things differently. And that as we bring more talent to the table that has a different and diverse background, we're going to see those changes start to happen a little bit more rapidly.
And in addition, just to add to the two of them, so we mentioned education is going to be a part of it, the whole networking and mentoring, scholarships, as Erica mentioned, but we also plan on eventually presenting job opportunities as well to our network. So we want to work with partners that are willing to post their job postings to our website. So that we give more opportunity to the network. And we also want to give back from a community standpoint, right? There's a next generation, there's organizations that have youth that we want to make sure they understand this industry and why it's so great, and how you can come from nothing you can come from little education and make a lot of money in the automotive industry. So we hope to spread this to that next generation.
Yeah, that is certainly one of the great things about this industry is you can come from, and you just said little education or no education.
Or no.
And seriously make a very good living in this industry.
Yes.
And too many people have been driven away from it. And I hope this, if anything positive comes out of this pandemic, that the industry itself has opened its eyes, I think, and maybe has opened some other people's eyes that how essential we actually are in this business, that, you know, we didn't go away during this pandemic. We were still there to help people. So
yeah, and being an entrepreneur, like, I understand timing is everything. And, you know, we talk about this is kind of an incredible time. It was one of the reasons, you know, we've been talking for a while now, and in like May or June, we were like, we have to do this now. Like, it's just too important. There's, you know, with everything that's going on, including challenges and opportunities, right? This is just going to be important for women of color, of us to come together, to be able to do something like this. So this is exciting for us. It's interesting. We talk about the challenges and opportunities of COVID, right? And you can find opportunities in any challenges. And this is one of them, I think, that we found. And the timing is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you're absolutely right. Timing is definitely everything. And this is a great time for you guys to put this group together. I did join the group. Obviously, I'm not a woman of color. I don't know if you noticed, but I did join the group. So,
well, Dave, and can we just mention, I'm so glad you joined. Yeah. And because there's been confusion about that even from a woman of color standpoint, you know, we happen to be Black women that are all, you know, that have started this group. But when we say women of color, you know, that it could be Hispanic, Latina, that could be Asian, South Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander. And I will say that we actually have had, I think he might be the second guy that has joined. So, and we have had white women. We've had some white women join. And our thing is, we are open, but you know, the content will be very geared in some ways to women of color or women and the challenges. And if you're open to that, we're fine, right? We're an equal opportunity employer.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you want to be around a bunch of women, right? That's what I would say.
Yeah, if there's education involved, and obviously just talking to you guys now, it was educational. So if there's education involved, then anybody should be there and want to learn more.
Absolutely.
And help to open their minds some more about what is out there in the world. And I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And I wish you the best of luck with growing this. And I thank you all for being here. And maybe we'll do this again and see if we can get Amanda to join us also.
Yeah,
she's the most fun out of all of us in the group. So you got to talk to Amanda. But if for those who are interested in joining, by the way, it's WOCAutonetwork.com is our website. And we have a Facebook and LinkedIn page as well.
Did myself. If you can send me those Facebook page links, I'll get all that linked up into the show notes. So when the show goes out, everybody will have all this stuff.
Sounds good.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been an awesome conversation, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you again to Patrice, Erica, and Kerry, and the missing member, Amanda, from WOCAN, Women of Color Automotive Network. That was a great conversation. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. All the links will be up in the show notes. And make sure to go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review and a rating. It helps ensure that this podcast gets out to more people that need to hear it. Also, FixedOpsMastermind.com is where you can join the Fixed Ops Mastermind Weekly Leaders Group. We get together every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and discuss all things fixed ops, help each other through concerns, crises. We were there to help everybody with ideas getting through this COVID situation, and we would love to have you as part of the group. fixedopsmastermind.com is where you can go to sign up for that. Thank you again for joining us on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Take care. Another amazing episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. We really appreciate you listening in and enjoying the show. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. 5-star reviews and ratings help us to get the word out to more people that need to hear it. The Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast is sponsored by Traver Connect. Visit them at traverconnect.com. Don't forget to join the Fixed Ops Mastermind weekly members membership at fixedopsmastermind.com. Every week, we have a subject matter expert that we sit and talk with and discuss future-minded issues and ideas for the automotive industry. fixedopsmastermind.com. Join the conversation.